What's up, y'all? In this week's episode of the show, I want to do something a little different and rock a solo episode because I want to talk about this recent news of the purchase of Whosampled.com by Spotify and what this probably means to hip hop artists, producers, and MCs moving forward. Let's get into it. Okay, I've got an article from Music Business World, and the name of this article is Spotify Acquires Song Sample and Remix Database Whosampled. And this just came out, I think, last week or so. I want to talk about this because there's some big implications here if you are a sample-based producer, if you're a hip-hop artist or producer. And I think that this could end up being something that really, really impacts the sound of things somewhere down the line. For those who don't know, Whosampled is a website that became really popular because it lists all of the sample sources for records, samples that you may know. So let's say you are a person and you find a sample on your personal record collection that is of an artist that you're familiar with. You say, oh, I got the original record of that. People will go to whosampled.com. They would link that song with that artist, submit it to Whosampled. And then eventually Whosampled becomes this database of artists who are sampling other artists, source material, right? As we know, hip hop producers, many start out sampling and still sample to this day. Sampling is a huge part of hip hop production. So that's no secret. What I think wasn't intended in the original use of whosampled.com is that whosampled.com would become ultimately a resource for record labels, rights owners to find out who sampled their work. And in doing so, become the source of a lot of lawsuits for uncleared samples. So as you could imagine, a site like Whosampled, who has this huge database linking artists to songs they sampled, becoming a part of the largest streaming and music distribution platform, Spotify, is kind of alarming. Let's get into the article though. Spotify acquires song sample and remix database Whosampled. Spotify has acquired music database Whosampled, which provides information about song covers, samples, and remixes. The music streaming company quietly announced the acquisition in a blog post Wednesday, November 18th, in which it unveiled a number of new song credit features, including an upcoming song DNA function for premium users, which Spotify said will be powered by Whosampled, which is now a part of Spotify. London headquartered Whosampled confirmed in a statement on its website that it had been acquired by Spotify. This marks an exciting new chapter in our journey, one where Whosampled will not only continue to grow and improve, but also bring its unique flavor of music discovery to the world's largest music streaming platform, used and loved by hundreds of millions of fans, the company said. It didn't disclose the acquisition's value. In a LinkedIn post, Whosampled founder Nadav Poraz said he will be taking on the role of head of Whosampled at Spotify. MBW has reached out to Spotify for a comment. Though its database is being integrated into the Spotify platform, Whosampled said it will continue to function as a standalone app. The company announced some immediate changes, including that its iOS app will now be free to download and in-app subscriptions on both iOS and Android will now be free. Whosampled also said it will become ad-free in the coming weeks and added that its moderation will be faster, with waiting times for submissions expected to drop dramatically. The company added that it will be working with Spotify on improving the Whosampled experience and building exciting new features. Whosampled statistics show its database indexes more than 1.2 million songs, around 387,000 artists, 622,000 samples, and 460,000 covers. The first Whosampled powered function on Spotify will be Song DNA, an interactive feature that maps connections between songs via collaborators, samples, and covers. Sample and cover data will come from Whosampled. It's part of a series of enhancements to the data on songs available on Spotify. Other enhancements include expanded song credits, adding session musicians, engineers, and other contributors to the credits, which have so far included only top-line performers, songwriters, and producers. Spotify is also planning to roll out About the Song, which will be swipeable cards that offer in-depth info about the origins of a track, such as the inspiration behind it or interesting stories about its creation. Spotify has over the years used acquisitions to build and expand its business. In 2021, it bought audiobook distributor Findaway. Spotify began offering audiobooks in select markets in 2023. Also, as a part of its effort to expand audio offerings beyond music, Spotify acquired a series of podcast companies including Anchor, Gimlet Media, and Parcast. Over the past several years, it's focused on AI-related acquisitions, picking up AI voice company and Sonantic in 2022. The following year, it unveiled an AI-powered voice translation tool. Also in 2022, Spotify had acquired Kinzen, a content moderation company that uses AI in its technology. Spotify had been working with the platform since 2020. End article. Now, let's get into what I think this means or will potentially mean for all hip hop artists moving forward. Obviously, I'm no expert on this stuff, but I do have some ideas about how this could play out. And I want to break down about 4 to 5 points of where I think this thing's going to go. Point number 1. This means that music sampling and finding sample sources is now mainstream. At one point, when we were coming up many, many years ago, sample sources were a thing that was very secretive. You had DJs back then who would even cover the labels of their records because they didn't want other DJs to actually know what they were playing. Eventually, over the years, certain records got out, certain sample sources were named, but those deep inside the culture, especially hip hop producers, were never very forthright about what they sampled, who they sampled, because they understood that when people start sniffing around these records, lawsuits and lawyers are probably not too far behind because most of these samples are not cleared, right? So what I think this is going to mean now is that you have now paired the number one website for revealing what's been sampled with the number one music distribution site for the casual music listener. This is going to make the popularity of finding sample sources explode. People who never even understood the connection between samples and sample sources and what producers did are now going to have a front row seat by being able to click one button and hear who that artist sampled, right? And so if you are a hip hop producer, buckle up, because what's going to happen is that what we consider to be a very secretive thing, what we consider to be kind of like a countercultural thing, digging for records and sample sources and keeping things quiet and disguising our samples, it's about to go mainstream. It's about to be something that the average person will be able to look up with one click of a button. And how you interpret that is going to be up to you. It's going to cause a lot of problems, which is going to bring me to reason number 2. The number 2 thing that I think is going to happen is that there's going to be a lot of lawsuits behind this merger. See, what happened before was that distribution and sample enforcement, i.e. the sample police, were not necessarily in bed together. You had businesses who basically distributed the records, but they were never ever responsible for policing what was sampled. Their job was basically to aggregate the music, push it out to stores, push it out to streaming sites, push it out to places where people listen to and or purchase music, right? That was the distributor's job. The sample police is basically like a function of the rights holders, a function of the labels. And these worlds were never intertwined, but now these worlds are about to be intertwined. And what is going to happen at this point is now you will not only have the average fan who knows where samples are from, you will now have the average rights owner, the person who has been sampled, who may not even know. They may be listening to a song, their own song on Spotify, click on this song DNA function, and all of a sudden 10 people who sampled them pop up. They had no idea before. Maybe they weren't up on Who Sampled. Either way, simply going to Spotify is going to put a lot of uncleared samples on blast in a way that we may have never seen before. And it's going to cause what I think is going to happen is real-time sample snitching, which is reason number 3, meaning that the lag time between someone sending you a letter about a sample, sending you an email about an uncleared sample, and that sample being removed from DSPs, there was a lag time there. It wasn't immediate. I think the time that it takes for that process to happen is going to play out in real time. They will be able to immediately get your song or your sample source, where you sampled them, pulled off Spotify immediately. Like immediately it's going to get pulled off, and there's not going to be much you can do about it, right? You can go and fight for it, but by the time it gets to that point, it's too late. Due to this real-time sample snitching, you're now going to see a lot of albums that we know and love that may have had uncleared samples on them not be available on Spotify, meaning you're going to click on that album that you listen to all the time, and all of a sudden, that song is going to be grayed out. The title will be there, but you won't be able to listen to it. Think about this. There was a period of at least 5 to 10 years where De La Soul's classic albums were not available on streaming or any digital sites. They were available only in physical form. You think 10, 15 years of their music not being available anywhere to listen to at the part of musical history where streaming is the largest and music is more accessible than ever. Their catalog wasn't there. Why? Because of uncleared samples. I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. I think there's going to be a lot of cases like that. Old albums that may have had a sample or two on them that wasn't cleared properly, or maybe people want more money because maybe they want to, you never know. At the end of the day, the sample snitching is going to become real time. And my last thought is that back catalogs are going to take a hit. I don't think this is going to be a big issue for a lot of the newer major label artists. I don't think it's going to be an issue for them. What I think is going to happen is that a lot of the older back catalog of these artists, though, is going to be scrutinized much heavier. Links are going to be added to their songs for maybe secondary samples, maybe not the main loop, but maybe it's a horn staff or a riff or some sort of record that was pulled that wasn't clear, but it played a minor part in the beat. I think the back catalog of songs like that is going to start disappearing from streaming sites. Potentially. I don't know. These are just my thoughts. Maybe nothing changes. I could be blowing this completely out of proportion. I have no idea. But I know that every beat maker, every sample-based producer right now should be very concerned. That's all I'm going to say. That said, I'd hate to make this episode all negative. So I do have some positive things that may come out of this. Take a quick break, and I'll be back with those. Before we go any further, wanted to take a quick second to let you all know that my social media strategy book, The Social Media Cheat Code, is back in stock exclusively at superdutytoughwork.net. In addition to that, the book now comes with a workbook for anyone interested in that. While supplies last, head over to Super Duty Tough Work, pick up your copy. Also, for those of you who are interested in coaching, I have now started my artist coaching again now that I'm back from tour. Head over to Super Duty Tough Work, check out all the information, and send me a message if you think that you need some help with something. Back to the show. Here are the positive things that I think are going to come out of this. Number 1, sample-based beat makers are going to get much more creative. As the technology expands and we see like Serato sample, we see a lot of the Akai line, we see Ableton adding stems feature, the prevalence of replays and musicians who are capable of doing those replays and musicians who are capable of just like emulating certain sounds. Sample based producers are going to have to get more creative. There's no way that you can have sample source finding become so popular and not adapt, because your future can be dependent upon it, right? Like you could end up having a great song, but if the song DNA puts you on blast as it's taking off, this could hurt your momentum a little bit. So I think sample-based producers will get more creative due to this. The second positive thing I think is going to come out of this is that self-distribution platforms like Bandcamp are going to become more popular. Why is that? They'll become more popular because they will be probably one of the only places to get the digital versions of songs that are no longer available on huge platforms like Spotify due to sample clearance issues. Those songs will never completely disappear from the internet, but what will happen is that they will start being behind paywalled situations like that. Artists who make records who they know might have some risky samples on them are going to go straight to Bandcamp. And fans are going to realize that, hey, wait, I can get something on Bandcamp I can't get anywhere else. This is actually going to help artists who are selling direct to fans. It's actually going to help artists who are selling direct on Bandcamp, right? Because now you have something that's super exclusive that is not on Spotify, which is the original versions of songs that may not be available anymore. The number 3 positive thing that I think could come out of this is that there will be more artists who actually skip Spotify altogether. There's movements, there's always artists here and there who are saying, we're not even going to put our catalog on there, right? Due to what they view as unethical business practices of Spotify. We've all been there, right? But what I think is going to happen is that if the sampling becomes part of their responsibility, sample enforcement, I think there will be even more artists who decide, why should I even put my music on there? Why don't I just go straight to Bandcamp or put this version straight on physical CDs or vinyl or something, and I'll just skip Spotify altogether and actually use the fact that you're getting something exclusive as part of the marketing for my music. It doesn't have to be a negative thing if you know that you got something unique and you can use that as a part of your marketing angle. Maybe that's, hey, I got these 3 songs. 2 of them will never appear on Spotify because they pulled them. If you want to hear these, they're the bonus tracks on my album now. Right. And then finally, the 4th positive thing I think could come out of this is that sample makers will become more popular than ever. As finding sample sources becomes popular and mainstream, there will now be even more skilled guys who can recreate samples, interpolate samples, and sell samples directly to producers instead of even taking a risk of putting something on there that can get them popped. And they'll be contracted more than ever. They are out there. They're out there right now anyway. More than ever, though, to replay things so we can get them back on the Spotify. I think that's what's going to happen next. All right. That's it for this episode. Let me know what y'all think about this format. I've never done this solo format before. Let me know if y'all like it and you want to see more of these. I'll see y'all next week. Peace.